Hello and welcome to Business Connect with me, Nhyria Addo. This is your business show that gives you insights and inspiration from the lives of business people around the country. Now, today I bring you a conversation around innovation, and we catch up with Dr. Fred McBagonluri, the founding president of Academic City University College, and he shares with us the importance of innovation as the cornerstone for development. And also, we'll check the world of hustle, where Naki Lord Wuto tells us how under pressure she was able to turn her hobby into a business. Dress Afiba is the name, and we'll learn more about that. And then in business and in life, safety and security is important. But have you ever thought about how tracking and GPS tracking at that can improve the efficiency of your business? Learn more in our digital business segment when we tell you about GPS tracking from Jati K. I'm Nhyria Addo. I hope you enjoy this episode. Do share your thoughts with us via social media. You can tweet at us at JoyPrime or at GHRainmaker, hashtag Business Connect. Enjoy the big conversation which comes right up next. So thanks very much, Doc, for making time for us today.
Thank you.
Beautiful setup you have here at Academic City.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I've been wanting to come here forever, and I finally am.
I know you've been saying it, so we're happy to have you.
I'm so happy I made the trip.
Yeah.
But it really fits perfectly into this conversation I want to have with you.
Thank you.
Now, the rather developed economies of the world did start from agrarian economies, and they went through the industrialized phase, and now the so-called knowledge economy.
Age. Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of importance in these milestones.
That's right.
Now, if you look at Ghana, we're now on the cusp of wanting to foray into industrialization.
That's right.
From where you sit, what must we be doing by way of investment, by way of mindset, that will help us achieve that?
Well, I think you are standing exactly in one of these facilities that we need to invest in. When you talk to a lot of students, a lot of professionals, the feedback you always get is that we don't lack ideas. We actually lack the environment where you can actualize these ideas. And a workshop such as this is end of spectrum, right? It gives you an opportunity to come here to ideate and to build prototypes, to experience prototyping, and to build stuff that you can scale up into industry. So I think we need an environment such as this. And of course, we also need to create that whole mindset, that ecosystem of innovation that as a nation, when you have challenges, those are also opportunities for innovation. So a mindset change. We need to reconfigure our educational system to a point where we just don't do projects for the sake of projects, but every project should have an opportunity to not only solve a problem, but to also become a marketable concept. So I think an environment such as this is proper. And the mindset, I think that my emphasis will be, how do we reconfigure ourselves to be an innovation-driven society?
You know, I like the last phrase, innovation-driven society. And recently I've spent some time reading the Startup Nation. Okay. And that focuses a lot about what Israel, a very small country with very, small population, have imprinted their innovation and innovation culture on the world. Now, if we were to find a way to leapfrog, apart from environments such as this, apart from the mindset required to change it, what would you say would be the practical things we ought to do? So for example, from my home, what would I need to be doing at home? Because the value chain is quite long.
So look, Israel is a very interesting one. They came at it from many, many angles. Definitely, one of the strongest drivers of innovation is adversity. These guys live in a very tough neighborhood. The land is dry, it's infertile, and you either survive by innovating or quit. The second thing they've done quite well at is that they have immigrants coming in from around the world, from Russia, from the United States, people coming in, and there is money. I mean, some of the really top investors on Wall Street are Jewish guys, obviously. So there's influx. but they also have a very good educational system. University of Tel Aviv, Haifa, I mean, some of the really top-notch universities are in that place. But I think one of the strongest drivers is immigration and also the fact that they live in an environment where they have to survive. I think for us, bringing it home, we need to start teaching our kids to be a little innovative. When we were growing up, girls played ampe, men play owari and cards and drafts. These are some of the most innovative tools that you could have. Now, if you ask kids, even if they know what ampe is, they don't know it. Do they know owari? They don't know it. I pushed a tire when I was a kid. We got innovative by putting water into it and 2 sticks on the side and speeding it up. Before there were skateboards, we were making them out of old ball bearings. So our kids are too insular now, to really experiment, to really get more creative like we were. So I think, driving the essence of innovation, even with your kids, by letting them assemble stuff, engage them, challenge them, talk to them. Our kids are now shutting down, even in COVID. Sometimes I'm at home and I don't know my kids are there. So I'm equally guilty.
Right, so the times have changed. But the foundations of what inspires creativity hasn't. It's up to us. We need to make that happen.
Exactly.
So spend more time with the kids, allow them to be more expressive and explore their environment.
Make mistakes, run up to you, guide them. And you don't need to be a scientist or an engineer to do that. I mean, I did a summer program one time for kids, and there was this particular little girl who would come in and she wasn't interested in what we were doing. She just wanted to be on the swing outside. And so the grandma will come and say, am I just wasting my money here, Prof? She's not interested. I said, just give her space and time. And so about 3 weeks into it, she came up to me one day, and she's called Lesinam. She said, Dr. Fred, can I get my own kit today? And I gave her one of the most complex kits that none of the kids were able to put together. She sat at a corner, put it up nicely, tested it, and the duck was walking all over the place. And we were all surprised because she was the youngest, she was the one that wasn't interested, and now she actually assembled the most difficult piece. So sometimes kids just need their time, they need their space, and I'm one of those that believe that we don't all have to be team players. We don't all have to be. Some people just are not meant to be team players. What we need to focus on is how do they bring value to the team.
So we find what they're strong at and allow them to
express themselves.
Okay. Now let's talk about this educational system.
Sure.
I mean, nothing happens without that system.
That's absolutely.
You can have a great idea for Academic City, but of course, without getting accreditation, without situating it within the context of Ghana's education system, it won't fly.
Nothing will happen.
What's the kind of mindset required, both at the public policy level and for investors and dreamers and doers who want to see businesses like an educational institution like this?
Yeah. So I think fundamentally what seems to hold us back is tradition. I say tradition because everybody thinks that the educational process they went to was the best and everybody else should experience it. So I went to KNUST and got a degree in engineering. KSU engineering is the best in the world. Everybody has to go through the process. I got my degree in a classroom, so everybody got to sit in the classroom. We would not accept online education. But I think what we need to do is to take the personal out of it and to step back and look around the global framework and say, what are the hottest ideas, philosophies that are driving education around the world? So you have to come to a point where you have to start feeling like the Finns don't have the best educational system just because they have the best syllabus, or the Brits, or the Americans. Syllabus to a Form 1 kid is the same syllabus everywhere. It is how it is delivered. Okay, that is what makes the difference. So I don't subscribe to a Cambridge educational system, a GSS, and all these things are just conversations. They're just babbling in the background. It's fundamentally what is in it for this country. What kind of educational system do we need to function at the global level? So we need to break away from the status quo. I think the other thing that we are struggling with is that we just have the tendency to go out there and buy technology when we need it. And often in times of crisis, it becomes obvious that we are always taking unawares, right? We're talking about not having ventilators a year ago. So that reactionary mode where the problems are solved through procurement has to stop. We have to innovate. I mean, we're getting to a point within this global framework where we have to innovate to get out of our situation. That's exactly what the Israelites did, right? They can grow tomato in the desert. They can target a plant for exactly what it needs, right? So it doesn't matter whether you have desert around it, the plant gets what it needs. So we need to break tradition. We need to move away from procurement. And we need to look at the educational system itself, because what I see right now is that our kids are over-tested. Somehow we feel like, you know, you need to pass BECE, you need to pass O-levels, A-levels, you need to go through all these. They are basically minefields, right? We just throw minefields in their way and they hop. I think that we have to integrate continuous assessment. I think continuous assessment from your school, your semester grades, your projects, your art and craft, everything has to assemble. There should be a place in this educational system for different types of creativity. You know, when I was in secondary school, perhaps at the same time you were in secondary school, going through the regular grammar process was considered prestigious. If you went to technical school, you were an anomaly.
Yeah.
You were a failure. But actually, think about it. The guys that are building the world now
are the guys who went to the technical
school. So when I talk about mindset, those are some of the mindset that has to change. If a kid is good in carpentering in the classroom, what is available for him or her to take that to the next step, right? But WASI should not determine the future of our kids. WASI should augment the future to our kids. The real future is the stuff that the teachers deal with every single day, and they can quantifiably measure, and that should play a critical role in how, you know, they get tertiary education.
No, it's quite interesting you say this, because I'm not sure if the statement is correct, but apparently kids learn 90% of what they're able to do by action.
Yes.
Not by what they read.
Exactly.
It's by play and
by touch.
Yeah.
You know, as you can see here. You know, telling a kid about a jet engine.
I took a walk through and see, I don't know any engineering whatsoever. So looking at the two-stroke petrol engine. Yeah. So I started cranking and I kind of said, okay, so that's the piston moving up and down and generating force. Yeah. And then I looked at the four-stroke and I'm seeing, okay, it's four-stroke maybe because suddenly you now have more one piston, but it's driving something that delivers twice the force.
That's right.
Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, so...
And look at this beauty here. This is a jet engine. Okay.
Ah.
The guy that actually invented the jet engine was a professor at the University of Dayton, where I got my PhD. And about the same time he filed his patent, Pratt & Whitney in the US also filed a patent for the jet engine. So historically, there's a struggle as to who actually invented the jet engine. So von Oheim actually has his model right at the entrance of our engineering building. You know, and that makes it possible for us to travel across the globe today at speeds that we still wish would be better, right? So there's a new Concorde coming up that is going to cut the trip from New York to London by almost 3 hours.
Wow. You know, it's interesting you say this. Now, this clearly is a demonstration of when minds are put to use in a bid to fix problems.
That's right.
Some of them aren't problems that are present, but you look at the current context and then you forecast what could happen tomorrow and work on those things.
Exactly. And even in policy.
Yes.
You know, in policy you have to figure out this is the policy, but what could go wrong? And that is what we call the unanticipated consequences of policy. Once you know or can anticipate some of these things that could go wrong, then you have a much more solid policy. An example, what is going to happen to somebody when you inject them with the COVID vaccine? You can't just say, I'm going to go inject them and then figure out what happens, right? Because you need to know if they react to it, what else do you need to do to stabilize them? Because ultimately, you don't want people to take the vaccine and die, then others are not going to take it. So people rarely think through it. How am I going to deliver it? What kind of vaccine do I need to bring to Ghana if I don't have a cold chain? And these are not engineering things. These are things that policy people have to grapple with every single day. And if you don't do that, you're going to have policy failures.
Now, let's go back to a year ago when the pandemic started. You know, you posted something on social media and that got me excited. You were prototyping a homemade ventilator system. And we're going to have a look at where you're at with that now. But that for me is an example of innovating your way out of a hole,
crisis,
right?
Yeah.
We still have problems today.
Yes, we do.
How can we learn from that aspect of your work, even for businesses that are not necessarily in education? How do you take a crisis and learn from that so you innovate for the future?
Yeah. So, you know, this is quite interesting. When I started the project, I got a call from somebody in the Ministry of Health, and the first question was, Prof, we heard you are building a ventilator. Have you built one before? And then I said, no, I haven't, but everything else I've built was the first time. Well, that was the last time I heard from him. I guess I could have said something else. But I just wanted him to see that, look, in the space in which I spent 16 years of my life, we react to situations. You know, one of the situations we reacted to was an infestation of hepatitis C in India. Apparently, people were going into waste dumps, harvesting used syringes and needles, wash them, repackage them, and sell them. And up to 3 million people got secondary infections from hepatitis, and we were asked to solve it. So we developed a syringe that allows you to use it one time, and if you try to use it a second time, it breaks. Now, that is what engineers are meant for, to rise up to the occasion. So when I heard the country was about to get shut down, and I'm asking, shut down? I mean, aren't we going to do something about this? Are we just going to fold our hands and pray, something that we are quite good at? Or we're going to say, God, give me the strength to go out there and fix it, which is a different angle of it. So I just sent that email out. I said, there has to be some other people who are itchy and bored at home that would want an opportunity to go out there and do something different. And that was the initial call. And it was quite interesting because one of the students that volunteered was my old student at Ashesi University. And when I posted that message, I was thinking, I hope Adam comes. I hope Adam comes. And he did. You know, just yesterday, I wrote a nice letter to WPI, to the robotics program, and said, give this guy financial support. He is a good, strong, intellectual guy who can bring honor to your institution. That's what I told them, you know. And so we rose up to the occasion, and we started with 6 different prototypes. First, we had to understand exactly the biology of the problem, the physics of the problem. And everybody that came that day brought different perspectives. You know, some were just good at project management. They said, look, you guys ideate and we build. That was exactly what happened. By the 6th prototype, we had something that you could actually put onto somebody today, and they're sitting over there, and give them air, give them oxygen, and stabilize them. So I remember when I first showed the prototype to GIZ, you know, the German entity, one of the guys said, oh, this one looks so clunky, you know. So I said, listen, I worked for Siemens for 7 years. And even in 3 years of a project, we don't get to this stage. This is 6 weeks of work. But come back in another 4 weeks and see what we got. 4 weeks later, he came here and he couldn't keep his camera in his pocket. He was just taking pictures all over the place. And then they came back and said, we'll give you 200,000 euro in funding to take this to the next level.
So you rose to the occasion.
I rose to the
Now,
occasion.
the lesson in there for businesses is that in every crisis, there's an opportunity.
There's a lot of opportunity, and you should not stop digging, because even in the absence of crisis, every business has to evolve. You have to be thinking about what is the next step of it. You know, the same way that Apple looked at his first version and his 12th version and say, how do we bring incremental innovation to what we have? You have to be able to anticipate the future. What are the unforeseen potential crises that are going to come? And as a business, how do you react to it? Because if you don't, you become Kodak. You know?
History.
And we know what happened to Kodak. They were the first guys to invent the color camera, right? But they were so over-invested in the film industry that they didn't want to shoot themselves in the foot. But sometimes, as history shows, businesses actually have to shoot themselves in the foot in order to move to the next level.
And that's what cost them.
Yeah.
So the place of innovation in the home is important, in business is important. Clearly in policy making it's important.
Yeah. But there's something too that I want to mention. I keep referring to that as indigenization of innovation. Indigenization of innovation. So, you know, right now, if you look at where we are in terms of innovation, we're having a little bit of what I call identity crisis. The identity crisis here is that we are increasingly going abroad and bringing in technologies, but we have problems for which those technologies are not informed. So if you go to my hometown, every dry season, young men, viral, tall, energetic men will come out and they will beat millet. They will beat the millet. They've been beating millet for thousands of years. Now, we should have a method, right? A traditional, innovated, simple solution that beats that. But because it's so integrated into the culture, it's a social event now, we don't see the opportunities to innovate. There was a video that went viral recently of a lady grinding millet on a stone. They've been doing that for centuries. If you try to replace that with an oil-powered, electric-powered system, she'll tell you the food doesn't taste different. So indigenization of innovation means how can we find solutions to these problems that gains efficiency for these users within our context.
So they don't lose the sentimental attachment they have to the process.
Exactly.
So you're bringing efficiency,
to the
things that we already are doing.
That we already do.
I like the sound of that.
Pitot, we are still selling Pitot in calabashes.
Yeah.
I mean, what prevents it? That's the same beer the Germans have been bottling for thousands of years. So how do we indigenize Pitot and still preserve the taste, and yet you can bottle and export it?
Many opportunities.
Many are here.
All we have to do is look around us and say, take what we have to the next level.
Kente, we're still waving kente by hand, right? And some people will prefer to have the handmade kente cloth rather than the one from the textiles industry, right? So how do we develop simple technologies that allows them to reduce the number of days they use to build that kente significantly, but yet preserve the indigenous knowledge within it?
So in a process like that, you would look at not fully automating, but improving certain aspects.
Exactly.
So what kind of, let's take this back to just general business.
Sure.
What are the steps that to take to ensure that they have this innovation mindset in action all the time?
So, you know, I get asked this question all the time, and I tell you, I straddle the boundaries between innovation and creativity. So I had the good fortune of working for a German company that was very innovative, and with an American team that was very creative. And the process of creativity is very chaotic. The Germans can't handle that. They are so formal, everything has to be structured. But once you throw the creative idea to them, they'll put structure on it, and you get the ultimate driving machine, which is a BM. And I love BMs. Yeah. You know, so I kind of have had the opportunity of being in the middle of both. I really think that, look, for us, we have to empower the people around us. Innovation is also about empowerment. I worked with a guy that one day, a guy had a eureka moment at home. He went to the shop, bought some parts, put it together, and came and showed it to this guy as a problem, a solution to a problem we're having in the market. And the guy looked at him and said, "Who asked you to do this?" So now what happens? This guy will never try anything new because he has to fall into place. So I think we need to empower people. We need to have avenues where people can actually go to with these innovative ideas. And I know the outgoing minister for MESTI had an idea that we should have these centers of excellence where people can come with ideas and we help them refine those ideas and set up commercialization models for them. I think we need room for that. I think we need to actualize this concept the president has that we need to spend 1 to 2% of GDP in investing in innovation. I mean, I think for me, as a head of an academic institution and a practicing engineer, I think what I learned from this COVID period was that we are coming to a time in human history where there's going to be innovation nationalism. Nothing is going to leave the country until everybody is okay. COVID medicine is not leaving the European Union until
they've made sure everyone...
Exactly.
Well, self-preservation, isn't
self-preservation.
it? You know,
so,
as someone once said, if you and I were stuck in an elevator, we had always been in competition with each other without realizing it. But when the air supply starts getting limited, that's when it will become survival. So it's important that you know we indigenize these things. Because the problems you would have, for example, even for somebody living on the coast in Accra, would be different from someone living in Hamile. You know, so you can't take a solution from Accra and just drop it in Hamile and expect that it would work. It has to have some context.
Yeah, and look, the challenge, one of the challenges we have also is that when we are faced with adversity, we actually run from it. That has always shaped our history. You know, when we're told our voodoo practitioners were evil, we ran away from them. When the sea lion started hitting Keita and swallowing land, we were moving away inland, and the sea was in pursuit. That tells you there's a certain point where you have to stand and fight.
Well, the story of Amsterdam.
And that is innovation.
That's the story of Amsterdam.
Exactly.
You know, that the story around Schiphol being an area where ships used to dock.
Exactly.
They reclaimed the land.
They reclaimed the land.
Airport.
Singapore is reclaiming the land. We are building a fence wall at Keita that never gets finished. We should be reclaiming the land. We should be pushing against nature. And anytime you have the courage to push against nature, you innovate.
It allows you room.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be learning more from Dr. Fred McBagonluri. He's the president of Academic City. And we're talking education and innovation, the platform or the foundations on which we can leapfrog our national development. Stay with us. This is Business Connect. We'll be back with more. Yeah, welcome back to Business Connect with me, Nhyria Addo, and in our big conversation today, we're having a conversation with Professor McBagonluri. He is the founder and president of Academic City, and as you can see, we're in the engineering lab, if I could call it that, and the essence of this conversation really is to learn how we can borrow from engineering and apply the principles to business, to our lives and everything. Absolutely. And we've talked a bit about innovation. I like the example you give, the creativity and then innovation. The form and the chaos. In our society, culture, the example of the young man being proactive and coming up with a solution to a problem, being asked, who asked you to do that? It's like us saying to little kids, oh, you're talking too much. A kid keeps asking questions like, no, that's too much. You're talking too much. How do we recalibrate our own posture to people who are naturally curious?
You know, I think that one of the things that we need to do is to find a home for these really, really talented and gifted children. Today we lump them together, and it is obvious when you even teach to see the kids that have exceptional capabilities and they are in a hurry and they are driving everybody else nuts because everything around them is too slow. We still don't have that. And we live in the falsehood that everybody is equally intelligent. We are not. I mean, it's not even a normal distribution curve. We have very few people that are really, really brilliant in the world, right? But we have a critical mass that helps them take their ideas to the next level. And I've always contended that one of the things our educational system is well crafted for is the ability to create exceptions. We create few exceptions. So anytime you challenge the status quo, you get told, oh, but this person went to Achimota and went to NASA. This person went to Adisadel and went here. This guy went to Nandom Secondary School. Our educational system has to be so solid to produce these people. And I said, that's fine. But remember, there are so few. Who is going to support them? The rest that you are missing the boat for. So we need a critical mass. So we have to reconfigure our educational system to produce critical mass, while at the same time making room for these kids that never stop talking, that some teacher is going to force to shut up and they never open up again.
You know, these kids are oftentimes, and from the description you give, they're naturally maverick in the way they do things. They don't conform. If we extract this picture and throw it smack into a work environment, somebody who is a non-conformist, but brilliant at what they do, how do you manage someone like that and get them to deliver and ride along with everyone else?
So look, there's a school in the Bronx called the Bronx Science School. And it has a high school. It has produced more Nobel laureates than any other school on earth.
Wow.
The Richard Feynmans all went to, the Oppenheimers all went to this school. And they went and became pace setters, right? We need people to drive the direction of knowledge that we can all harvest, And it comes to my earlier point that, look, we can't all be team players. And we have to understand that, because anytime you force people into a team, you are forcing conformance. And conformance doesn't allow creativity. The reasons why you see the maverick American, right, taking a Jeep and reconfiguring it under a tree, is that they want that freedom to take that car and make it their own. And a couple of years ago, when NASA was actually looking to build the next rover for Mars, who did they go to? They went to the guys under the tree and said, hey, how do you build a rugged vehicle that you can drive on the mountains and deserts of Arizona? Because that mimics the harsh environments of Mars. And that's how they build a rover. I mean, I saw the rover at NASA Space Station in Johnson Space Center in Texas. So these are the guys that we have that are missing. They're missing in our sphere of action. In Ghana, you have to be well educated, you have to be formal, and when you speak, God has spoken. But that is not innovation. Innovation requires a little bit of chaos, a little bit of creativity, a little bit of separation.
Looney Tunes, huh? You've got to be a little loony.
You got to be a loony.
And you see, the thing is this, how do we get around beating the culture of rejecting that which we're not sure of and being afraid of everything we don't know?
Well, that's a generational question you've asked. For me, I think the easiest place to start from is from the formal educational sector. I'll tell you why. I always tell this story about me going to Central State University, where I got my undergraduate degree from as an industrial advisory board. So first of all, think about it. My university reaches out to me 15, 16 years after I left to come back and become a part of a committee that advises them on how they should reshape their curriculum and stuff to be in tune with reality. And then at the end of the year, we'll also go back and see the projects that the students have worked on for their final year and help the teachers to grade them. So on my last visit, which was 2014, I met these 4 boys, really, really bright guys, you know, and they matched me to a workshop. When I was there, that workshop was an electronics workshop. And they had 6 robots, 3 on each side. They said, we built this, I mean, so proudly, okay? And so I said, how did you come by that? They said, well, you know, when the financial market collapsed and people were losing their jobs, we went to the US Department of Labor with a grant proposal that if you give us money, we'll buy some robots and retrain people for high-tech jobs. So they got $50,000, and then they realized that $50,000 couldn't buy 1 robot. So they decided to build their own trainer robots. But here's the interesting story where I'm leading to. So when they were done showing me everything that I was so impressed by, I said, what are you guys going to do after graduation? The first one said, oh, I got a job with Boeing Aerospace. The other one said, I'm going to GM, I'm going to GE. They all mentioned. I said, really? You guys went out there looking for low-cost robots. You couldn't find them. You've built them. And now you're going to leave to go work because you've been configured to believe that you must always seek employment. Don't you think others will need this also? So what we try to do here is to integrate entrepreneurship directly into our programs, right? So that the kids will know that this project I'm working on could potentially make money for me. So I think it is that kind of reconfiguration of the educational system, or even attitudinally. Say, guys, don't just come here, build stuff and leave them on the shelves. Do you know that everything you touch inside and outside the classroom could be a career building opportunity? And so I think, you know, often we say, oh, there are no industries that our students can go to and practice. Well, we need to bring the industries into the classroom.
So they could start those industries.
They could start those industries here. So I think attitudinal changes at the school is one place, and then also at home. You know, oftentimes, as you know, president of a university, when parents come here, they want to know whether their kids will get jobs when they graduate. You know, like, Dr. Fred, can you look inside that crystal ball
what job
and tell me when Lucy is going to go when he graduates? And then I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. The world of work is evolving so rapidly that in 3-4 years, when Lucy graduates from here, I couldn't predict what that job market is going to look like. But what I can assure you is that we are going to give her a toolkit that will make her so adaptable that she will survive in that terrain.
Right, so adaptability, innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship, and the space within which all of these can be harnessed.
That's right.
Is important.
That's right.
Well, Doc, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
All that time would allow us on this occasion,
No
but this is
problem.
not the last visit. I
No
certainly will
problem.
come back again.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
we've been having a big conversation with Dr. McBagonluri. He is the founder and president of Academic City University here in Accra.
Founding president.
Yes, the founding president, I might add. And someday we'll put a bust of you somewhere out there.
I have a job to keep.
So we'll be bringing you more on this show. We'll bring you the digital economy, digital business, and then we'll also bring you the hustle. Stay with us, and hopefully you can walk away with some more inspiration and knowledge. We'll be back.